Hello and welcome to my final video that will be concluding my recent Final Fantasy VII Let's Play. This is my Final Fantasy VII review, and I have nothing planned. I have no script. All I have is 5 full playthroughs of the game now, or 4, maybe 4 full playthroughs of the game now, and including a recent one that just finished a few days ago. So, spoilers, just be aware that there will be spoilers throughout this review, and I'm going to keep it fairly quick. I'm just going to go off the top of my head. I beat this game for the first time back in 97 or maybe early 98 with my friends. Already was a fan of the Final Fantasy series, and Final Fantasy VII certainly was not a disappointment back then. And even now, like, I find every time I play it, it just reinforces the idea in my mind that this game isn't just all hype. Even though there is a huge amount of hype surrounding it, it's not just all hype. It really does live up to its reputation. If it was called Schmeinel Schmanasy 1, it would be just as good of a game, even if only 10 people had ever played it. It's a really, really good game. Okay, the plot. The plot is really good. It deserves to stand amongst the old school RPGs like Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VIII. Insert whatever other RPG you love most. I've never played Xenogears. I would love to play that game. I've heard that's maybe got the best plot of them all. Star Ocean 2, there's another great one. This plot does stand up amongst them, but it's not without issues. The game starts off incredibly strong when it comes to plot and character development, and I think that's maybe, if not better than the plot, it's at least equal with the plot. Is just the character development and the characterization, and even a lot of the NPCs. The character of the world and the character of the people in this world is really, really good. I really like, there's a guy near the beginning of the game who's a train conductor who's standing on the train platform, just kind of the train station where you arrive back in Sector 7, that's just outside of the train graveyard. And he talks about how, like, you're starting to get the idea already that Midgar is kind of a gloomy place. All the people that you know here live in the slums. You're working with Avalanche, led by Barrett, who is just telling you how horrible Shinra is, and they're, oppressing the people, and they're looting the planet of all its energy. It's a rough place. The rich people live up above. And so you're getting this feeling of gloominess, and you talk to this train guy, which you don't even have to talk to him. He's not like the train conductor, he's just like a doorman for the train. And he says that he enjoys watching the people go in and out of the train and kind of getting a little glimpse into each of their lives. He's a people watcher. He likes watching their lives, but he basically implies that it's better for him to just be the train person and not get involved. And that kind of spells out the whole vibe right there, is that things are just so sad here. That's how people are when they're living gloomy lives. They don't get too involved in their emotions. In some ways, people living in those kind of situations are more emotional. You see the extremes of their emotions come out, but it's better to keep a certain amount of distance. It's better to keep a numb shell on yourself. And that also started the train metaphors that carried on throughout the game. That might have been the #1 metaphor used throughout the game. It became a lot of Barrett using it whenever your characters, or specifically Cloud, or Tifa sometimes too, were having a hard time thinking like why they should go on when they've caused so much destruction and the odds against them are so great. Why should they continue? And Barrett would always bring it back to the train metaphor that, you know, we don't know where this life is going. There's no point looking left, looking right. We can't just stay here where we are. There's still a job to do. We have to keep moving forward. And I really like that, and I like that they carried that on throughout the game. The setup of the plot is fucking amazing. From the beginning of Midgar until even past Calm, where Cloud tells the story about Nibelheim, even onto the ship at Junon, and then probably all the way, like, the Gold Saucer first encounter is great, and then going down into the Corel prison, and then you get to Gongaga and Cosmo Canyon, and then the first Nibelheim visit. I think the first actual Nibelheim visit where you actually get there is where the plot starts to, like, kind of slow down a bit, and it's a little bit more sparse. You get less details as you go. Even Gongaga, there's some really interesting stuff, although that's an optional area. And then Cosmo Canyon is obviously extremely interesting. But then, yeah, Nibelheim, Rocket Town, it starts to get a little more sparse. And that's the part of the game where it starts to give you more free reign. Like, as far as having movement options, having the world map open to you. So I honestly forgive them for this, because it makes sense that the more freedom you get as the game opens up more and more, the less they can finely tune the plot. It's at this point as well that you generally have the option to have whoever you want in your party with Cloud. So the dialogue at some of the story scenes from the secondary characters is fairly generic. Like, instead of giving some like specific response to what Cloud just said, they'll be like, yeah, we need to fight for justice. And it's like, you know, a real person in that situation looking at them would be like, wait, did you, like, just start paying attention? We've been talking for 5 minutes. But, you know, it just is how it is. Or it is what it is. So from there on out, I would say the plot gets less and less good, quite frankly, aside from the major plot dumps. You get a big plot dump. Well, you get several of them. You get the Nibelheim visit. You don't really learn a ton from that. It adds to the mystery, but you don't learn a lot. You learn a lot, like up in the Icicle Village, you learn a ton from Dr. Gast's stuff. Like, you get a big plot dump in Cosmo Canyon. You get a lot when Cloud is, like, comatose in Mideel. After that, a lot comes out. One of the coolest plot things... So here's something I'll say about this game. Every time I play it, I catch more details. There's a fucking lot going on in this plot. I finally, for the first time, basically caught on to everything that the game was trying to tell me, I feel like. From the Cetra being the Ancients, and there being a race of Ancients that... Or not a race of Ancients, but a group of Ancients that split off from the main group and didn't want to continue the Ancients' mission, which was hopping from, like, planet to planet, like, seeding life or improving life on each planet. And that the initial reason for Sephiroth getting angry at humanity is because he thought he was an Ancient, and he thought that Jenova was an Ancient, and that he needed to take revenge on the rest of humanity because the rest of the quote-unquote non-ancient humanity were basically the betrayers of the Ancients. They were the group that didn't decide to continue on with their mission. They just, like, hid out on Earth. Whenever the calamity happened on Earth, they just hid from it. They didn't, like, sacrifice their lives to, like, try and stop it. Then eventually you find out that that's not really how it happened, that Jenova's not really an Ancient, that she's actually the calamity from the skies. She's the problem that came and attacked the planet. But from there on out, you never get more clarity on Sephiroth's understanding of that evolving. He just, like, he goes from mad at humanity to just power hungry, and there's no real transition there. So that's whatever. That's not the greatest, but it is what it is. Like I said, the plot kind of gets weaker as the game goes on because it's just so tight in the beginning as you're introduced to Avalanche, as you're introduced to the themes of like fighting against like corruption and greed and trying to fight on behalf of the planet and on behalf of the innocent people. And then Aeris is introduced, and she kind of falls into both camps because she's like this ancient, but then she's also just like an innocent person who's being like chased down by the Turks. I like the way they introduce Reeve, and they show that out of all the Turks, and basically out of everybody that works for Shinra, he's the only one that has any semblance of morals at all. And that's foreshadowing for the fact that he winds up being Cait Sith, who's like a triple agent. He's like a spy for you, but he's also a spy for Shinra, but he winds up doing the right things in the end. I loved the scene at the Gold Saucer after you find out that Cait Sith is a spy, and he steals the keystone and gives it to Seng. And he tells you guys, look, like, there's no way for you to believe me. And it's true that, like, they're kind of asking you a lot. To even bring Cait Sith in your party to begin with is extremely suspicious, because he just comes in out of nowhere. But when he says to you guys, like, I watch you guys, and there's something that bothers me about the way you just fight on, and you get nothing for it, and everybody hates you for it, but it's the right thing, and you just keep doing it. I really like that. So I like the character evolution of Reeve and Cait Sith. I think the character evolutions are the best part of the plot in this game, even though there are some really interesting ideas, with the idea that the Cetra go from star to star, and that the Promised Land is like not a place, but it is a place, but they have a home planet that they're supposed to get to at the end. It is a little bit confusing still. But in the end, I mean, just to skip forward to the ending of the game, in the end, they show that it's not really about the individual people, and Red 13 even says that in the final scene. He's like, man, forget about saving the individual people that we know, like Bugenhagen and Marlene and whoever else. Like, Holy is about to fucking destroy the planet in its fight with Meteor because we got here too late. And then that's when the green energy of the life stream with Aerith like heals everything. And then all they show you after that is 500 years later, the lions running around, and you hear the laughter of children, and you see that the green has taken over the planet again, and you see Midgar, like the remains of Midgar covered in greenery. So it's really just about the train theme. It's about life carrying on. I feel like that's the main theme of the game, and I feel like that is shown in the character evolutions. Every character in the game in their own way has their own development that they go through, where they learn something about life moving forward and life basically overcoming. You know, Cloud is basically the continuation of Zack. Cloud basically takes up Zack's mantle where Zack was not able to, but Zack was such a great guy, and Zack just wanted to do the right thing. And he stood up for what was right, and he stood up for Cloud, and he saved Cloud. I love that scene. That's the first time I ever saw that scene of Cloud and Zack escaping from the lab. And that hill that Zack literally dies on. Talk about the saying to die on that hill. Zack literally dies on that hill, and Cloud takes up his sword, and the Shinra soldiers, for whatever reason, just decide to leave Cloud alone. Which could be seen as the life stream kind of speaking up for Cloud, because it knows that he's going to be important. Cloud learns about life from learning from that Zack sacrificed himself for Cloud, and Cloud is going to carry on and make the sacrifice for everybody else. Tifa just wants to protect people in general, but Tifa sacrifices everything going into the life stream with Cloud to save Cloud from his catatonic state where he can't get over his past. Like, she takes a big risk there and does that. Barret is able to get over his past of the hatred of Shinra, and his self-hatred is his main thing he has to get over, because he was part of what allowed Shinra into Corel against the wishes of Dyne, who wound up killing himself because he just couldn't get over all the killing he had done in his revenge. And he didn't think that, like, his words were, "My hands are too dirty. There's too much blood on my hands to even hold Marlene, even if she is alive." And Barrett was able to see that example. Dyne is kind of like Barrett's Zack, where Dyne was the one who had to be sacrificed. He couldn't survive the onslaught of Shinra and the onslaught of this corruption and greed and evil. And Barrett, instead of following in... I mean, Barrett could have killed himself too, just out of guilt. But he decided to carry on for the planet, and for Marlene, Dyne's daughter, and for everyone, and for Dyne's memory. You know, Red 13 thought his father was a coward and ran away when the Gi were attacking his village. But then he learned that that wasn't true at all, that his father sacrificed himself to protect everybody. And Red 13 learned that that was what he ought to do as well. Vincent blamed himself for losing Lucretia and for not standing up for their love and not protecting Lucretia from the crazy scientists, Gast and Hojo. And Vincent thought that it was his fault and that he should punish himself by, you know, going to sleep for however long he slept in that coffin. But then when he finally learned the truth, which was that, I don't know, it's kind of implied, they show a really quick flashback for him. It looks to me like it's implied that Lucretia was under some kind of pressure. Basically, Vincent, when he saw that it was like just Hojo's evil and Gast at least repented of his evil and regretted it. You know, he learned that he needed to carry on and keep fighting for what was right to undo the mistakes of the past. Cait Sith was Reeve, and Reeve didn't want to... Reeve was the only one in Shinra who was like, hey, we shouldn't drop the fucking Sector 7 plate. That's too evil. When Shinra was trying to find a way to blame Avalanche and, like, vilify Avalanche and make themselves look like the good guys. Kind of reminiscent of that Malcolm X quote about, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you believing that the oppressors are the ones helping you and that the people trying to help you are the oppressors. Reeve was the only one in Shinra who said, no, we shouldn't do that. And then he made the excuse for himself so that the president of Shinra wouldn't get too, you know, basically onto him that he wasn't necessarily on board with all of Shinra's goals. He said, oh, well, it's just because I'm the head of urban development. That's why I don't want you to drop the plate. You know, I'm just going to have to clean up that mess. But it showed that he was willing to at least try and speak up for what was right. And him seeing Avalanche and your party consistently doing the right thing and getting punished for it, heavily punished for it, in a way that Reeve wasn't even able to be courageous enough to let himself get punished for it. He had to, you know, he kind of was on the fence. He was playing both sides. But he does decide to help you in the end and do what is right as Cait Sith, to help you fight Sephiroth and help you save the planet and fight Shinra, because he's inspired by your guys' example of doing the right thing regardless of whether it benefits you or not. And Yuffie, she just wants fucking materia. God damn Yuffie. Is there any fucking lesson that's really learned with Yuffie? She's kind of just like, as much as you would kind of think that Kate Sith is the comic relief character, really it winds up that Yuffie is the comic relief character. The lesson that Yuffie learns if you do the Wutai side quest, she does learn a lesson. She learns that her father not wanting to fight against Shinra after losing the war to them years ago is not necessarily just a coward. Kind of similar to Red 13's father. He doesn't want to fight anymore because he's like Frodo from Lord of the Rings. He's just seen too much death and suffering already, and if he fights against Shinra more, they'll just punish Wutai even harder. And she winds up learning that after you fight him at the top of the pagoda. And then Eris. Maybe Eris is the only one who never had to learn that lesson all along. Because she was just always about innocence and life and having fun. She was, whereas, you know, there's the big romance plot, which I really like, the love triangle between Cloud and Tifa. It's really interesting, and it's interesting that you can wind up taking, you know, one of several people on the Gold Saucer date. Tifa is a lot more conservative. She's a lot more protective. She wants to do the safe thing. She wants to protect people. Eris, she is loving and she does want to protect life, but she's a little more loosey-goosey. She just wants to have fun. You can tell she kind of has a sense that she's going to have to sacrifice herself, but she still just wants to go on a date. She wants to get to know Cloud better. She wants to go on another date with Cloud. She wants to, like, go have fun adventures. And it's like, you know, just her example of having the flower bed in the middle of the broken down church in the Sector 7 slums. You can see that she's the one who embodies the lesson the most and the understanding the most of life not caring about being destroyed. It just moves forward. You know, life is always at risk. When you're alive, you're at risk of dying. When you're feeling good, you're at risk of feeling in pain. I am not personally at all a believer of life needs suffering in order to provide a contrast so that you know what, you know, feeling good feels like. I do not agree with that. In my mind, yes, when you have an extremely expansive reality the way we have, with free will involved, yes, of course there will be some bumps and bruises here and there, but that's not part of the point of life. That's just part of that's just part of having an expansive reality that is extremely diverse and involves free will and basically forgetfulness, like the old Alan Watts speech about, like, maybe God is just a dreamer that decided to forget that it was dreaming so that it could have a more interesting experience. I believe that that's the case, and that having such a scenario and having a life that you know, grows and can change and transform and has all these interesting interactions, I believe you're going to have some bumps and bruises here and there, but that you're just supposed to learn from that, but that the pain isn't an end in and of itself. In other words, there can be great beauty in learning from pain and learning how to overcome it. But you shouldn't seek to cause pain just so that you have something to learn from. You should seek to do more learning to just create a more harmonious and balanced reality that can withstand the ups and downs of life without having a lot of excess pain and suffering. Nevertheless, when you do have a lot of excess pain and suffering, there's nothing you can do but other than to just keep living, keep growing, and grow past it. Grow immunity to the disease. Grow immunity to the suffering. Grow, you know, grow enough callous to where you can play the guitar. But you don't want to grow so much callous that when, you know, your dog comes up to you and wants to lick your hand, that you don't understand the loving intent and you just tell it to go away. You know, a certain amount of callous can be helpful in life, but you don't want to have too much. Anyway, I'm getting a little off track, but the lesson in all of the character growth and the lesson of the whole story to me is life carries on. So I'll leave it at that. And the gameplay is really fun. It is, you know, a fairly basic RPG. By the time you get the gameplay kind of follows a similar pattern to the story. The further you get into the game and the more freedom you get, the more loosey-goosey the gameplay gets. I feel like the beginning of the game is very finely tuned, where the battles are really interesting as long as you don't power grind. The difficulty level is like right on point. As you get further into the game and more side quests open up to you, you just have more and more ability to get really powerful stuff. Like once you have a golden Chocobo and you've got like Quadra Magic and Knights of the Round and Neo Bahamut and stuff, the game's not quite so difficult. But to account for that, the game gives you some super bosses like the Ultima weapon and the Ruby weapon and the Emerald weapon. So that stuff's all really cool. So the gameplay is a basic RPG. The interesting part of the gameplay for me, aside from the limit breaks, which are really cool, this is basically the game that introduced limit breaks to the Final Fantasy series, which became a staple in the series, and I think it migrated into other series as well. I'm sure it's not the first time the concept has ever been done, and I even know that Final Fantasy VI did have the very rare to see desperation attacks that I think would only trigger like at a very low rate if you were under 1/16 of your max health. Every character had a desperation attack. But Final Fantasy VII definitely took it to a new level, and the limit breaks are really cool. But to me, the best part of the whole game is the materia system. It is a really neat and intricate system. Really, the only like times you have to really use it to, you know, even close to its fullest extent in order to be able to defeat anything are like probably the Ruby and the Emerald weapon. So in a sense, it's a bit of a lost potential because the materia system is really powerful. By the time you get like an 8-slot armor, an 8-slot weapon with 4 connections each, there's a lot you can do with that system. Particularly with the support materia that you can combine with other materia. It's a really cool like strategic system that you can use. So I really like that. I like the way you can you could have your or let's say your fire magic. You could have one fire materia paired with all, so you do fire all, and then you can have another fire materia paired with quadra magic. So that when you attack with fire, not only will it hit all the enemies, but it'll do it 4 times as well for the price of only 1 fire cast. And then you could have it paired with something else like MP Absorb, so that on top of doing it 4 times and doing it to all enemies, you'll also absorb MP as you do it. And then you can have another fire materia, as long as this is all on one character, mind you. You can have another one paired to HP Absorb, and then another one paired to MP Turbo, etc., etc., etc. I think that's a really cool system. So, in general, back in 1997, and I do keep in mind when it was released. Back in 1997, it was not that overdone, the basic RPG formula, and it was only, I guess, the 4th Final Fantasy game that had the active time battle system, so that was still fairly fresh and interesting. The limit breaks were really cool. A lot of the bosses, like your first time through the game, when you're just a kid, if you're not like that well versed in games and you're not that wise and strategic, you'll definitely lose on a lot of bosses, and you'll have some fun figuring out how to get better. So it is a cool system. But particularly the highlight of it is definitely the materia system for me. The graphics, I mean, they're nothing to write home about these days, but I love the PS1 graphics, particularly the pre-rendered backgrounds, both the 3D modeled ones and the kind of painted 2D backgrounds. Really fucking super beautiful looking. Like, the Nibelheim Mako reactor, like some of the backgrounds are like animated, even though they're kind of still backgrounds. Sometimes they'll put a little bit of animation in them. When you run to the end of the bridge before you get to the final back room where like Jenova and all the other like Mako infused monstrosities are, there's like a set of gears rotating in that room. I won't go to it now because my save file is like right at the end of the northern cave, but I like this background music for the review. I think it's like a great set of background music for me to just talk over. There's a set of gears if you go into the Mako reactor in Nibelheim that is just so fucking coolly animated. The lighting and the shadows of it just looks really, really, really good. That's one thing I'll really say, particularly in this game, about the pre-rendered backgrounds. They do a really good job with the lighting and the shadows. To me, that's what really sells the 3D effect better than almost anything else. There's a part where you're going into the Forbidden City where there's like a really cool parallax background part where you're kind of approaching a giant chasm. So there's some really cool parallax background stuff down in this game too, but not as much of it. It's more so the little bits of animation here and there, like some of the water parts, like in Junon, there's like nice water where you fight the monster to save Priscilla and where you use the dolphin to get up on the scaffolding. But yeah, it's really like the highlight of the graphics is the pre-rendered backgrounds and the lighting, in my opinion. Also, the summon animations are like super cool, and the limit break animations are super cool. Knights of the Round is insane, like it's just so cool. But all three Bahamets are insanely fucking cool. The first one, Bahamut comes out of a portal. The second one, Bahamut tears open the sky and lifts the monster up into the sky. The third Bahamut comes from fucking outer space. And then Knights of the Round like takes the monster, like gradually, like transdimensionally fucking transports them out into fucking space as all like 13 Knights of the Round Table attack them. Fucking Sephiroth's Supernova summon, which I just realized this time playing the game, the Supernova is kind of like reminiscent of Jenova being the calamity from the skies. Coming from out, it literally starts outside of the Milky Way galaxy. So that's what really makes me think it's like reminiscent of Jenova coming from the skies. Reminiscent of, not huge spoiler alert for Chrono Trigger, but reminiscent of the main plot point of Chrono Trigger. So graphically, that stuff is all super cool. I think everybody the first time seeing the Supernova summon, or not summon, but attack by Sephiroth was like pretty blown away. Man, going back to a little bit of plot stuff. One, is it Jenova that's possessing everybody throughout the whole plot of the game? Or not everybody, but Cloud and Sephiroth and committing all the evil acts? Or is it Sephiroth's will? It's kind of unclear. It's kind of unclear to me. And some of the stuff involving the, like all the tattooed Sephiroth clones, the non-Cloud Sephiroth clones are a little weird to me. And then like Cloud and Zack, they're not clones, right? They just kind of get taken like after the fact and worked on after the Nibelheim incident, but they're not actually clones. Like, is Red 13 a clone? Because he's got a numbered tattoo too, right? Hence the number 13. So does he have Jenova cells in him? There's a lot of stuff that's unclear. I would love more clarification. I don't know if some of that stuff comes out in Final Fantasy Remake or Rebirth, because I'm a big Final Fantasy series fan, so I tried to play Remake, but I really am not a fan of the style of the gameplay or a lot of the personality changes to the characters to modernize it. I couldn't stand that shit. And like the way they like changed the plot. I mean, I'm more interested after seeing some people's retrospectives on those games. I'm more interested in learning how they resolve the plot and if it fills in any of the plot holes from the original Final Fantasy VII. So I'm more interested in that. But yeah, the final scene, like after you beat the actual final boss fight of Sephiroth that you're actually capable of losing from, when Cloud gets sucked down into the void. See, this got screwed up for me on this run through, which you won't be able to see because Square blocks recording of the Aeris death scene and of the game's ending. In the PS4 recording feature, unfortunately, so you won't see it. But yeah, my final battle versus Sephiroth, when it's just him and Cloud in the void, it got fucked up for me on this run through and my last run through of the game because I had the counterattack materia on Cloud, so I didn't get to see him like wail on Sephiroth using Omni Slash because he just like got hit by Sephiroth, counterattacked, and destroyed him that way. So that was kind of anticlimactic, but what can you do? Yeah, the way they set that up, my first time going through the game, like me and my friend did it and we barely made it through Sephiroth. We were like in our late 50s for levels, and then you know, you have to fight Sephiroth again as only Cloud, and it puts you into this panic state, like, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to do this. Sephiroth hits you fucking once, and you're almost dead, but then you have your limit break, and you use it, and it's fucking Omni Slash. And at that point, I didn't even have Omni Slash. Like, me and my friend didn't get Omni Slash. So it's like, what is this? And then the fucking epicness of Omni Slash, and Cloud just, like, finishes Sephiroth off. Oh my god, that is a really, really well-made final moment there. Like, I couldn't fucking tell you how good I think that final moment is. It's just so fucking perfect for Cloud to finish him off. After Sephiroth sucks him back into the void, it's like, nah, you're not getting away with this. You're gonna die, Cloud, and I'm gonna overcome you. And Cloud, like, Cloud makes good on all of his promise. He avenges Zack. He avenges his mom. He avenges Tifa's dad. He avenges everybody at Nibelheim. He just does it. He does it for the fucking planet. And Cloud's the man. So that's really, really cool. The music, phenomenal. Really, really phenomenal. Like, I love the Final Fantasy VII theme, the na 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 na. I love that is in, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 different tracks in this game. This theme is obviously amazing. This is like just a prelude that has been around since Final Fantasy I, but this version of it is unique with the chords going on in the background. It's really nice. It kind of ties the prelude into the Final Fantasy VII theme, so I really like that. Just throughout the game, there's such a wide variety of musical styles. The battle music is great, the several different battle themes, the different like slum themes that are really like kind of depressed and funky, like dun 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 dun. Bum, bum, bum. Really cool. One of my favorite themes in the game on this playthrough was the Wu-Tai theme. Got really, really cool. Reminded me of like Shinobi 3 music. So I actually really enjoyed, to me, one of the more, actually all of the most sloggish areas of the game in previous runs of mine, I actually enjoyed in this game. The Wu-Tai side quest where you're trapped in Wu-Tai with no materia. I still got kind of stuck on it, figuring out where to go at certain points, but it is what it is. They kind of made that part of the game to be a little bit frustrating, and I get it. Same with the Corel prison. Like, I didn't get that stuck this time. I remembered what to do, even though on past run-throughs I've gotten really stuck. I kind of like that they do that to you. That was more of a trope in older games where they would let you get a little bit stuck and have to figure it out. Kind of like in Final Fantasy VI, the South Figaro part of the game where you have to go in as Locke, and it's like a stealth thing, and you have to like do a little bit of a trading quest to figure out how to get out of there. I like that stuff. So I enjoyed that. But my favorite song in this game on this run through, and one of my favorite scenes, like probably tied with the scene where the tears of Sato fall on Red 13, and Red 13 howls for his father. Probably my other favorite scene was where Sid makes it up into space, and she he finally fucking apologizes for being such a complete fucking douchebag to Shira, and he gets his dream to make it up into space. And the Sid's theme in this game, the music is really, really epic and good. Another good tune was the song, kind of like almost a country western song that plays at Fort Condor and in Cosmo Canyon was really, really good. Just so many good themes in this game. One thing I will mention regarding the music is I really like the way the music that plays when you fight Idea in Final Fantasy VIII references the main Final Fantasy VII theme. I don't know why they did that, if there's some like plot reference due to the nature of the plot in Final Fantasy VIII. But I thought that was interesting. I kind of got reminded of that playing this game. And I guess that's basically it. I shouldn't belabor it. I'm at 40 minutes into this. That's basically it. Did enjoy, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, whatever. Really good game. If you've never played it, well, I just spoiled a bunch of stuff for you, so this probably wasn't the review for you. Hopefully, when I mentioned spoilers, you clicked off and decided to go and play the game. But for those of you who just enjoyed the game and were looking to listen to somebody else, go off on about how good it was, I hope you enjoyed this review. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the game in the comment section. Hope you're having a good day, a good life, and I hope you, just as I am, are able to take from the theme of this game and learn that you should, in your own personal life, you should let life carry on. Whatever parts of your life are kind of dead and rotting, or maybe need a little bit of extra attention from you, need you to just take a little bit on the chin and just suffer through it in order to benefit your life or benefit someone close to you that deserves it. Hopefully you can take the lesson of this game. You got to keep that train moving forward. Life always carries on. And it's a good thing to make sacrifices on behalf of innocent and wholesome life. All right, have a good one. Peace out.